Welcome to my show, simply entitled Women Influencers. I am Veronica Malalas, CCIM, founder and CEO of Capstack Commercial, a commercial real estate company serving the greater Orlando area. Today's guest is Ral West, a native of Alaska who grew up in a family tourism business, but later on with her husband established a company called Hawaiian Vacations that chartered wide-body jets, which they successfully sold to Alaska Airlines in the early 2008. Mentored by Robert Kiyosaki, she has built another company offering online courses called Ral West, Living the Dream. If you are an entrepreneur, this is definitely the episode for you. Please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe below. I welcome your comments and please share with someone who can benefit from this podcast. Well, good afternoon, Ral. How are you today?
I'm excellent, Veronica. How are you doing?
I am good. And I am just so grateful that I have you on the show today because I'm so interested in your story because you're just outside of my industry and I love talking to people like you. So let me jump right in and ask you, Ral, about how you grew up in your environment and how you got to where you are today.
Well, I grew up in Seattle, Washington, and I was born into a family that was involved in Alaska tourism. My father is somewhat known for being the father of Alaska tourism. He's called Mr. Alaska. So I grew up with Alaska in my backyard, both geographically and, emotionally. And as time went on, I started working in Alaska. In the summer that I turned 17, I was working at a hotel in a little town called Haines, Alaska. And later on, I did, of course, work for the family company, which was a tour company. We had small cruise ships and motor coaches and so forth that took people all over Alaska. And I ended up moving to Ketchikan, Alaska, in about 1980. And I was the director of marketing for a tour company in Ketchikan.
Is the marketing company separate from your father's company? You went and worked for another company?
I did. I left the
Oh,
family business. I felt it was time to move on and get out on my own.
oh,
So
totally
we,
appreciate that.
so
Yeah,
we,
totally. And sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say my husband and I and my sister and her husband went to Alaska last year with my best friend and her husband. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Totally
wonderful,
amazing. Yeah, so
wonderful.
please
Well, everybody
continue.
should visit Alaska, definitely.
Absolutely.
So I spent a little over a year in Ketchikan in that position. And while I was there, I realized that that wasn't exactly the right thing for me. So I decided to move to Anchorage, which is much further north, over 1,000 miles further north than Ketchikan. And I opened my own business, which was a little marketing consulting firm specializing in tourism, of course. And it was there that I had a little tiny office in an executive suite kind of arrangement. And the boy across the hall uh, later became my husband.
Oh,
And he was watching me. One of my ways to create cash flow was to represent companies in Hawaii that were selling to Alaskans, a hotel chain, an inter-island air carrier, a rental car company. And I would call on the travel agents all over Alaska and promote those products. Well, he saw me flitting off to Hawaii on business trips, and he thought, huh, I like Hawaii. I'd like to travel there for free on business. How do I do that? So he created a business that was representing Alaskan condo owners, and he would basically rent the condos for them in exchange for a commission. And of course, with my tourism background, I said, well, that's not exactly the way it's done. And
uh-huh.
here's how you really need to build a business. So he kept picking my brain, and you know, like I say, we became friends, and then got married like less than a year later. And he went on growing this business, and I was involved on the side, and still running my business. But it wasn't very long before we determined that I should let my business go away and put my full-time attention into this business that he was building. And it was known as Hawaiian Vacations. And we began chartering wide-body jets to carry Alaskans to Hawaii. There's a long,
Wow.
yeah. there's a long backstory about that the air service between Alaska and Hawaii was a bit um, variable. So we decided to provide it ourselves. And that was a huge risk. But we jumped in with all 4 feet and took the risk and grew the business and eventually sold the business to Alaska Airlines.
How
And
amazing is that? And just for context, what year or time period was that?
well, this was, we got married in 1983. So we just celebrated our 41st anniversary.
Oh,
And we,
congratulations.
thank you. So the business was a baby at that point, and we sold it in 2008.
Wow. 2008. Did you do that before the GFC, the global financial crisis, or?
Yes.
Oh,
We sold
thankfully.
it in January. We were very
Oh,
our
wow.
timing was excellent, and that was pure luck. Uh,
Oh,
so we didn't stop there, though. We uh, could have retired at that point, but decided, no, yeah, we don't want to. So we went on, we got involved in buying and leasing little small cruise ships that operate in Alaska. And I'm talking like less than 100 passengers per
wow.
ship, very small compared to the big ocean liner that you were most likely on. And
Hmm.
we did that for a while, and then COVID kind of put an end to that. So we sold the last of those ships, and we never operated the ships ourselves. We bought them, we spent the money to fix them up, but a cruise line named Uncruise Adventures, they operated them, and we just got paid, for the leasing of the ship. And so they purchased all the ships from us, and they're still operating right here in our town in Sitka, some of them. And then we got into real estate. Well, we'd always been involved in real estate, like since the early 90s in commercial real estate, but we were watching what was going on with the world during the COVID times. And it's like, okay, what's the next pivot? Is we've learned that there's always an opportunity for another pivot, depending on what's going on around you. And we decided that getting into multifamily investments was the way to go. And so we started getting involved in syndications, and we now are owners in over 6,000 doors in 5 states across the United States.
Wow.
So that's kind of the history in a nutshell, which brings us to current time where I've started another business,
Hmm.
and it's called Ral West Living the Dream. And the basis of that is that we have been able to live the dream and still operate our businesses. And friends and acquaintances always want to know, how do you do it? How do you manage to keep all those balls in the air and keep everything running and still fly off to Antarctica or Europe or, you know, Australia or wherever? And so our adult daughters encouraged me to start teaching people how it is that I'm able to keep track of everything. And so now I'm developing an online course that will teach entrepreneurs how to develop systems and how to basically grow their business without having them be totally overwhelmed and under the gun all the time.
I love that, Raul. And I'll tell you why is because a lot of times and I do a lot of things just like you, I balance my life and it's been a mystery to a lot of people because most people are overwhelmed with their responsibilities. But I've been able to kind of do that in a smaller scale than you have, I would say. And it's totally interesting how someone like you is able to share that through an online course. And I think that's phenomenal. Well, let me ask you about a challenge that you overcame, how you did it, and what makes you so proud of that. So, if you could tell us about a challenge and how you overcame it.
Well, the biggest challenge, which I alluded to already, was the fact that we were running a business as a mom and pop,
Mm.
and we had our tasks and things up to our eyeballs. I mean, we had a couple of daughters. We were trying to run a family. I was involved in nonprofit organizations, and I, I just didn't know which way to turn. I mean, my office was a mess. I was a mess. I was overweight and didn't get enough sleep, and I was just, a wreck, and our relationship suffered. We joke about, it's a wonder we ever were able to have 2 daughters, like, who has time for that?
Right.
Yeah. So It was through a series of mentorships that I gradually learned how to create systems. Our probably primary mentor was Robert Kiyosaki, who is well
Oh,
known for writing Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But we started studying with him in the late 80s in Anchorage. He came to town and delivered some workshops that we took, and we were just, greedily lapping up everything that he taught us. And, we were in Kona one year, about I think it was about June of 1994, and he was there doing a workshop, and we were there in business, and we had lunch with him. And during the lunch, he said, "You guys have to get these books." And one of the books was called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
oh, I
And
love that book. I love
Mhm.
that book.
Everybody should read it.
Yes.
And he's got newer versions of that book too since then, but we picked up that book that very day because we flew to Honolulu and went to the bookstore right away, and, we read it before we got back to Anchorage, and when we arrived back at our office, it's like, "Okay, guys, this is what we're going to do," and we started developing the systems that the way it was outlined in that book, and, it wasn't easy, it took a while, and we had to figure out how to teach people to do the kinds of things that we always did. And so that was difficult because sometimes we maybe didn't want to let go of the control, but we had to learn how to teach our team in such a way that it would be done the way we would want. And I'll tell you, it took probably 5 years for
Yeah.
us to learn all the ins and outs of that. And by the end of 5 years, we had gotten to the point where we could extricate ourselves from the day to day. We hired a full time CFO and a COO. They took over the running of the business. We were out of the business on a day to day basis. We bought a second home on Maui. We said, "Hey, we're going to be gone. You guys have to run the show." But we had set up everything so that we knew how the business was going wherever we were. We had access to all the reports that we had established. We established the metrics that we needed to know what was important and what was happening. And we developed the culture, the team, and it was from there that we were able to grow the business to the point where Alaska Airlines was willing to buy us.
Wow, amazing. That is really amazing. And I have to say that the book of Michael Gerber, yeah, that was also a game changer for me when I started my business like 4 years ago. So awesome. I want to ask you about influence. If there was one outcome that you're most proud of because you've influenced it, what would that be?
Well, obviously, the sale to Alaska Airlines was a tremendous outcome, but we did that as a team. So personally, I think the outcome that I influenced the most, and I take a great deal of just heartfelt happiness and pride in, is that we have a young woman on Maui who is managing our vacation rental condos for us, and we taught her how to set up systems and how to grow the business because she was working round the clock and she was so inundated in the work. She couldn't take a day off. She would, if we went out to dinner with her, she was answering the phone all through dinner. It's like, "Oh, honey, you need to learn how to create some systems."
Right.
And through the years, she took our advice and she has grown the business tenfold in that
Wow.
time, and now is able to take, like a month-long vacation. So I'm just so pleased and so proud that we were able to help her do that, and, we're one of her biggest fans, she's one of our biggest fans, so it's just delightful, a real win-win.
Well, talk about proof of concept. Oh my goodness, what a great story that was. I love hearing stuff like that. Well, Ral, I wanted to ask you if there was one piece of advice that you would give to our audience, what would that be?
I would have to say that, if you don't want to have your business be your entire life, that you need to look at creating systems so that you can run the business from wherever you are and enjoy your life. You need to learn how to teach people to do what you do and create, a way to duplicate yourself so that you can trust that the business will run the way you want it to.
while you're away, right?
wherever you are.
Thank
Yeah.
God for the internet, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I,
couldn't
I
we couldn't do it without that for sure.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Wow, that's really awesome. We've come to the part of our interview where you get to ask me a question.
Okay. So my question for you is, what systems are you using to make your business more efficient and to make your life easier?
Well, thank you for the question. I was pondering that before I hit the record button because I'm in the commercial real estate industry. And obviously, technology is really just so important in our business. And so, of course, I have back office systems that take care of sales, Salesforce, and in our team. We obviously have individual CRMs, which is very typical in the commercial real estate industry, or just the real estate industry for that matter. But the one system that I'd like to talk about, as far as your question, is really my calendar. As simple as it is, I really, really like the principles of Stephen Covey, where you really have to be so mindful of where you put your time and your energies in. And one of the things, for instance, that's most important for me is my family and travel and really working outside of the work environment. And so to me, my biggest system that has helped me with work-life balance is really my calendar. And the first things that go in my calendar, especially towards the end of the year for the following year, are the blocks that are important to me and my family, my kids' birthdays, whatever that is the biggest thing that goes in my calendar first. And then, of course, after that, work. And I want to make sure that I'm only working from Monday to Friday, try not to work on a Saturday and a Sunday, so that I can do the other things that will help balance my life and my mind, uh, really, honestly. So thank you for the question. And I know that's a pretty simple answer, but that is the system that really I'm most proud of, that I use the
Well,
most.
that's wonderful, Veronica, because systems don't have to be complicated. Sometimes it is the simplest systems that make life easier, and everything else flows from that.
Well, and speaking of which, I know that you've developed this online course. How do people find you or your courses?
Well, very easily. I have a website that's ralwest.com. So go to the website and you can learn about the course there. I have a couple of free offerings. There's a quiz that you can take that's what's holding your business back. And there's also a PDF download that's the 6 essential secrets to business success. So you can learn what I have decided are the 6 key elements to any successful business.
Well, I'm so excited for that because I want to go on your website and I want to download that PDF. So I want to spell that out. It's RALWEST.com. Is that correct?
Very good. Yes, correct.
Oh, awesome. Well, I want to thank you, Ral, for being here on our show today. And before I let you go, do you have some short parting words for our audience that's listening?
I would say don't doubt yourself. You can do whatever you set your mind to. Don't accept limitations. Just go for it. Don't let age or anything else get in your way.
Well, thank you. And I take that to heart. And I appreciate so much that you've spent the time to share with us today, Ral. And I look forward to going on your website, ralwest.com. And I hope that our audience took a lot of golden nuggets away from this episode. So, again, I thank you and I bid you farewell.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Best wishes to you.